Oneness family.
Peace tribe.
So this is Shophar from Faux Show Energy Work.
And this is Kirti from Dilse Culture.
Yes, and we are back. And this is this video today is 6 to 9 ways to have a relationship breakthrough. And so the reason for the video is sometimes in order to have a breakthrough, you have challenges. You have what some may call problems, you know. And one thing about breakdowns, yes. And the word solution, notice how it has soul in it, S-O-L, like the sun to shine through it. The word solve has sun in it, soul in it, you know. And so I think there's some in that technology of these words, they're letting you know that sometimes you got to shine your awareness, you got to shine your light, your soul, in order to have a breakthrough.
Oh, I love that. So, and definitely in the word solution and solving with the word soul makes me think of heat. And transmuting and alchemizing and changing and composting and taking what one thing was and really bringing together other elements and other pieces and other components to shift it and make something new. Gotcha. And so I love the idea of soul and heat energy. And
I love you point that out because the word heat, notice how the word heart has heat in it. You know, because the heart in traditional Chinese medicine is the fire element. You know, the fire element is so in order to alchemize things, we have to put some heat, we have to put some heart into things. Sadhguru says, in order for there to be life, something must burn.
That's right. Something
must burn. We burn our light has to be sparked. There has to be some passion. There has to be something burning. So there has to be heat.
Speaking to heat, also, I feel that heat, in order to change something and up level, it has to force things to be released.
Like a heated conversation.
Exactly. It's like there's some It's like there's something there that's got to be let go of, and in order for life to exist, things have to die, right? In order for birth to happen, rebirth must occur. With today's world of relationship and how we're in the place where everybody is renaming and reclaiming the different ways of relationship, it's time to see your biggest breakdowns in your relating as opportunities for your breakthroughs, truly, and personal breakthroughs. I mean, I think that believing and trusting that you've called the partner in to teach you something about yourself is really the path that we're all on, and especially is the tantric path that we're on. So to realize and understand that when we are experiencing some of our biggest breakdowns, that truly is asking us to step in to a breakthrough that maybe we haven't really recognized is there yet. I wanted to add that too.
I love that.
So the first way to have a powerful breakthrough in your relationship is honesty.
Honesty. And notice, y'all, you know, with the science and the technology of the word honesty has one in it. It also has hone, as in to sharpen or to make something, you know, to take something up, to appreciate something. So what comes through for you, like in order to have a relationship breakthrough, what role does honesty play in it?
Well, I like that you're talking about the word hone, because I think in order to realize what you're feeling, you have to hone in on what feels maybe dishonest. Where do you feel that there might be a pull or discomfort, unease, kind of just like not feeling that it's joyful and it feels like you're wanting to open up or to feel completely present in the space that you're in. And that could be anything from a business meeting to dinner with a family member, in the bedroom with your lover. Like all of those moments, that's actually a sign that there's some dishonesty happening. So you want to be honest with yourself and hone in on the places that don't feel like you are fully being expressed, heard, and seen, and trust that you're in a partnership that deserves that type of communication.
I love that. Yeah, that. And what you said, Kirti, makes me think of something that, Nityama, shout out to Shantam Nityama. He says that our bodies are not made to hold dishonesty. Our bodies are made to hold truth. And so when we are holding thoughts, what are thoughts again, y'all? Thoughts are the mental pictures or the affirmations or words. Those are thoughts.
Right.
And then you also have the emotional component, right? So between the thoughts and the emotions, when we are holding those thoughts and emotions that are not in congruence, that are dishonest with what it is that we want, need, and desire, you know, then what happens is that it causes, it can cause disease if it goes unchecked long enough. It causes misalignment. You know, we're wondering why things aren't manifesting, or, you know, why we're not able to get, like, why we can't come up with creativity. Creativity can't flow in a dishonest body. Creativity can't flow in a dishonest being.
That's right.
You know? And so one of the things, just like we have to move our bowels, you know, if we eat, and the heat in our stomach helps us to get rid of that shit, then we also need to verbally express our truths and work through the dishonest things and speak them.
Yeah. And before you even sometimes get to speaking, it's about being aware yourself that this type of dishonesty is even taking place, and having that aware of what does it even feel like. So, like, how do you know? What are your physical cues? Some of your physical cues when you know that there's some dishonesty happening for you. How do you know that?
That's a very good question. So, in doing that introspection, because we talk about what vibe, voice, introspection, breath, and embodiment, right? So when I do that introspection, when I look inward to get in contact with my emotions, one of the feelings that show up for me is anxiety. Is a nervousness. It's that's one of them. Another one may sometimes be anger and frustration. You know, if I find myself like just kirking out a little bit more, just finding myself more easily frustrated, a lot of times it's because I'm not being honest about some aspect of my life that I want to be different, you know, or about some action of myself that I'm not being honest with, that I want something in myself to change, and I'm not speaking to that. I'm not doing it. I'm not getting my shit done, you know. So that causes anger. And then another one is sadness. Sadness may show up, you know, because I'm being dishonest that I want, need, or desire something, or I don't feel like I'm worthy to have that. The physical signs of the anxiety is a nervous, like, jitter in my body. It's like I can't explain it, but it's like on edge, you know, and like, but not in a good way, you know.
Yeah, there's this card in the Osho Zen deck. I don't know if you remember it. I think we've pulled it together before, but it's like a gesture is balancing on a ball. Right, and he's juggling fire candlesticks,
right,
and then there's like somebody with a needle about to pop the ball. It's like, it's the anxiety card. It's just like at any moment anything can, and it's gonna blow.
Right.
So
that's the feeling.
Right.
It feels like it, and usually it's not even, it's not to that level, but it feels like that in the body, right? And so the way anger used to show up in my body, I've done a lot of clearing work around anger. Because it was showing up quite a bit in my life at one point. But the way it used to show up is heat. And by heat, I mean it would show up as pimples on my face and breakouts. You know, in traditional Chinese medicine, they said that. And long before I knew about that was happening. Right.
And skin eruptions. I also, like with Louise Hay's work, I believe is like mountains out of molehills. Like the idea of like something is building up, and then it just kind of like the skin erupts, and it's something that makes sense with anger as well. Like a collection of repression over time.
And then the last thing is fatigue, as far as like, you know, physical fatigue for the sadness. So the way sadness would show up, or grief or depression, is like not having a zest or a zeal to actually get shit done, to get up and do something. So physically, I just did not have the energy to do anything.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. For me, the way dishonesty shows up for me is I usually tend to have like an intuitive red flag hit, where I'll have a voice goes off in my mind. I tend to run, I know, and more masculine energy, so I can be a little bit more mental as a woman. with more masculine energy running. And so I think it tends to be a voice where I start to notice kind of like a critic or just kind of criticizing or doing something, which also can be an imprint of an elder that raised you. Sometimes we can think of that inner critic voice as a reflection of that in the subconscious. But I kind of get like an intuitive hit. And then depending on my physical response, I can usually tell if it's like what you're saying, anger or, let down. But usually I first have to also think, is this me or am I feeling somebody else's stuff? I have to ask myself that question sometimes when I'm honing in on dishonesty in the space. Because if it's somebody else, then it's also like, okay, well, is this something that I'm bringing in right now, being dishonest and not being comfortable in the space? Or am I sensing something that's already here? And like, I don't need to take personal responsibility for it right now. So honing in is really important, to be honest with yourself of what are you feeling? And is it worthy of this time energy space that you're about to just go ahead and dive into? And I think as an empath or highly sensitive people out there, it's really important to make that discernment. Otherwise, you're just expelling your energy constantly in every place, being the empath that you are. But if you're able to notice, oh, is this like something that I need to process right now? Or is this something that's in the space right now and that I can let that go? So honing in is really, really important. And then if I'm getting some of those physical responses that you're talking about, I think it's usually a good sign of like, okay, this is something that I want to take care of. And the more you do it, it just becomes quicker and quicker and faster, right? It's not like this whole long process. It's like literally happening moment to moment. So honesty, it's first and foremost being honest with yourself. And seeing what are you bringing into the space and what are you with your gifts absorbing from the space. So honing in before you even like bring this to your partner.
And that's a perfect segue into number 2, which is clarity. A great way to have clarity, if we think, again, nature tells us so much. And what is we talk about like, I'm going to go out into nature. But what if you live in the city? Remembering, y'all, that you are Ifa, you are the Tao, you are Tantra,
Right.
So you are nature. So in the nature of your being, the small intestines and the large intestines. The small intestines takes the nutrients from the stomach and the duodenum, and it starts taking the nutrients and then putting it into the bloodstream and everything, right? And then it takes the shit and sends it to the large intestines. But what I'm getting at is like, that's what clarity is. It's like using your awareness, your consciousness to look at your life, to look at your emotions, to look at your thoughts, whatever's going on. You look at your physical ailments or your health, and to get clear about what's going on. So in order to have a relationship breakthrough, it's about getting clear.
Right.
That's how number 1, the honesty is like using clarity.
I love that. And also, as you're honing in, having that discernment too of like, what is yours, what is not yours, that's also providing clarity. And with clarity also comes calm, right? Yeah. Like, so when you are in that space of anxiety or sadness, or you find that anger is the trigger is that's for me usually the hard one to like come down. But if I can hone in and get clear, I notice I start to immediately calm down and not feel like it's such an overwhelming thing that's happening. And for me, a big one is cop out, drop out, where like I just want to quit and like run away and get out of here. But it's more like let me get clear on what's really going on. Then hone in, be honest with yourself, and hone in to get clear with what you are bringing in to this dynamic.
Sure.
Now, the power of honesty and clarity is that once you are able to do that for yourself, right? Once you're able to really get clear with yourself, hone in with yourself, trust the inner oracle, of your being. And that means you're already, because you're doing so much work already, breath work and movement and sound and all qigong and yoga and all these other practices in life, living your fullest life. So once you do that work and you're able to hone in, be honest with yourself, build that clarity, well, it's time to communicate. And this is really powerful, I think, because it's like once you deal with what's going on in the organs, the small intestine, you pass it over to the large intestine, you say, handle that scandal. Drop them off at the pool party. We don't need them kids anymore. We don't want to carry that. Or it's like, release that baggage. And sometimes I also think of it, take this, Mother Earth. I'm giving this back to you, compost it. But it no longer serves me. And when we're able to do that, we can actually communicate and honor certain levels of communication that represent our most, I want to say the word sacred and truest truths from a place of compassion and love. And that really is communication. You know, communication, community, all of these things, immunity, they have unite and unity in there. And so that you have to speak from that place of overall understanding of we are here to ultimately connect, right? And not further separate. So communication is about that, getting to that ultimate goal of understanding.
I love it. I love it. And that's communication, and I love what you were saying about community. You know what I mean? And the community of a relationship, right? Of two people.
Yes.
You know, and you know, being able to speak our truths with another person now.
Right.
So it's a beautiful reflection.
I think another really important point to make about communication is that when you also take the time to be honest with yourself, hone in, and get clear, you are more apt and you are more willing and able to follow different protocols and tools that you and your partner or whoever you are in this breakdown dynamic with. You're more apt to have patience and come into a conversation of communication with a more clear and level head, and like practice some of the tools that you have been practicing with us, or that you're practicing with another coach, or that you've integrated into your relationship. And I know one of them is, you know, taking a moment to calm down and talk. That's a big one for me. You know, I know, like, I can just, I just will go there. And so it's about honoring the process. And so taking the time to communicate and honor a process of communication. And if you don't have one, it's time to get one. Especially for when you're in conflict or when you're in a triggered emotional state. Highly recommended. Highly recommended.
I mean, if you want your relationship to grow and thrive and survive even, you know, if you want to keep moving forward with it and growing, it's definitely needed, because let's be really clear. Those moments that we come to an impasse, that we come to things need a resolution, a resolution, those are crossroads, y'all.
Yeah.
And different cultures talk about those moments. You know, there's different deities. You know, one in the Yoruba culture, you know, where I get my Ileke from, is like Eshu. And then we also have Ganesh, who clears the way, you know, and everything. When you're at a crossroads in your relationship, it's very important to have tools for around your communication and everything. So it definitely sharpen, you know, have your tool set.
Have your tool set.
Amen. And another tool to have going into number 4 is space.
Oh.
You know, so right away, just that resonated. So I want to hear what was coming through for you right away on space.
Well, immediately when I thought of space, 2 words popped out to me: pace.
Ooh. Damn, I never saw that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And ace.
Okay.
You know, so it's like space allows you to find like your ideal pace where you can feel like an ace. You know what I'm saying? It's
and you
like
can use your tools, your ace hardware. Y'all. No, going too far.
Oh wow. We'll save that for the daddy edition.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that space it's usually the hardest because people have different attachment styles, so it's good to know your attachment style. Like if you tend to go into abandonment or you feel very neglected when your partner takes space, there's ways to work around that and know your love style, your communication style, all of that. This is why space comes after communication. Because in the communication phase, you can communicate your attachment style, remind your partner, tell your partner what you need for support. You have all these tools and processes so that when you do go into the cave, is what I like to call it, when I go into my deep cave, to take space for myself to actually now, after I've communicated my truths, I've casted my spells, my partner and I have done the processing. It's for me, I do want to integrate, like as a creative. And this is something that is oftentimes not really talked about, and it's really not encouraged. In fact, we tend to see people taking time alone as more of a punishment. If you look at the classroom and school culture, we send kids to the corner, take your space, like separate from the group. It took a long time for education and progressive classrooms to be like, oh, maybe we can call that like a reflection corner, and ask a student like, oh wow, like I can see that you're feeling pretty anxious and excited right now. Would you like to go in the reflection corner and take a moment?
I love that. And
then there's like different tools that teachers will have for students to do to like get them to have some of their own space. And so boundaries is big when it comes up for space, because some of us are also raised in families where taking space was like a very big no-no, especially in my family. There was no boundaries. We were not allowed to really close our doors. It was kind of seen as negative, or why are you shutting me out? Everybody, it was just like full access to yours. And when you're also sharing, and that's the culture of the family and the culture that we come from, it's just kind of like really no boundaries, and everybody has access to your life and information. And so again, the ability to know that taking space is healthy it's powerful, and that I'm really ready to have more of that happen for people, where they realize taking some space is always really good to like reset, get a new pace.
I love it.
And like, get into your ace mode.
You're going into that space. You're making room for yourself, right? Because let's be very clear. What we're being called for at those crossroads and stuff is a rebirthing. It's a reimagining, a rechanneling, a restructuring, a remodeling of the relating. And that takes reflection. I love the reflection, corner, and going into the cave, in the Toltec, and Aztec, ancient Mexican culture, they talk about the caves and the underground, and going into the underground, going into the cave of oneself to come out new.
That's right.
So,
well, how about speaking to, we have different practices of taking space. I feel like Shophar, we have had to talk about this at length to understand this about each other too. Like, we have different practices. You tend to want to take space after social gatherings, right? Like, you need space to integrate and to like refuel and recharge. Whereas for me, social gatherings charge me up. Right. And when I need to take space is after if I'm guiding ritual or leading any kind of ceremonies or huge processing sessions. Right. That for me is when I need to require to take space. But casual social things actually really charge me up. So that's a thing to, again, communicate and hone in on and get clear on. Like, is this just because I need space right now? Like, right. And being able, like, this doesn't need to be a huge, big blow up breakdown. Right. You can have your breakthrough long before.
Right. Yeah. What you're speaking to me is like knowing oneself, knowing yourself, and then knowing your partner, and knowing the operating systems that are there, and how we operate, and again clear. So again, clarity. So you see where it's a DNA helix, y'all. They weave into each other.
That's right.
And in order to, we want DNA to evolve, right? We want the next generation, the next generation of ourselves, or our kids, or community to be better. So part of it is that we need to use our DNA and evolve.
I have a question for you, because I feel like this is this is definitely a growth edge for me, the space piece, and stepping into that. Like, what do you do when you know it's important for you to take space, but you kind of feel like social pressure, or you have old story or some counterfeit personality voice running through telling you like you can't take space, like there's all this other stuff to do. Like, how do you, because you're very good at it, like how do you commit to taking that space for yourself?
So sometimes it's about the quality of it and not necessarily the quantity. A lot of us, you know, if we work in this matrix 9 to 5, you know, the things that a lot of us are going through right now, as we renegotiate that, I feel like that's what the global activation, as our corona has been virally opening, if you getting at what I'm talking about, that global activation that we've all gone through is asking us to renegotiate our relationship with the matrix, you know. But in that, some of us, we don't have a lot of time to go into solid. So it's really, to answer your question, is making sure whatever time I have is potent, that there's a certain potency to it, to really drop in and to really, you know, to put a sincere and a full-hearted effort into that 5 minutes that I might have, you know, but go really go for it. And if you got 10, even better. If you got 20, you know, but whatever time you can. And another thing to exponentially take things up, if you can, nature has the codes. So if you can just put your feet on the grass, y'all, you know, if you live near a beach or a park or what, any little access that you have to the, again, we are nature, but if you have the outside nature as well to connect with, it will remind you of your answers, or make you ask the right questions.
Beautiful. Wow. Thank you. That was very helpful. Yeah. So the beauty of being willing to take space for yourself at the times that you need, and being able to tune in and knowing like, okay, I've done the communication. I'm communicating the space I need, how I need it, how I can be supported, and your partner and whoever you're talking to is able to do that as well. It's time to take that space and be willing to go deep and have that heartfelt, sincere moment with yourself. And this really is about showing up for the parts of you where you have waited for someone else to show up for you. And you've got to do that, you know. And some folks are afraid of doing that work, that shadow work, or, you know, really the true tantric work is that. Because from that place and that awareness, just like how do we find honesty? Well, we find the places where we're dishonest. So how are we able to really understand and get what we are needing? Is we have to go to the places where we don't feel like we're receiving what we need. And a lot of times those are external projections, right? And so shadow work is about helping us get clear with how we are blaming, shaming, you know, maybe even guilting others. And really it's a reflection of how we have felt that way in our own lives, and we've accepted it. We've allowed it to go down. And so when you go into the cave, for me, that's really about, I want to see all the places, and I want to be willing to acknowledge all of the moments where I settled or where I played small, knowing that it was time for me to step into my power. Because acknowledging those moments and then showing up for myself in those moments allows me to release and forgive. Notice the word forgive. Forgiving. Wow. It's forgiving, for releasing, for letting go. You know, forgiveness is about letting go. And you cannot create anything from the cave if you're not willing to let go of things within the cave. And that's why I feel like oftentimes, like when we hear about ancient stories and we see like where do they put the bodies of people once they pass, or like how they tuck them away, and then you see like these bones and like the cave, and it's like skeletons in the closet. It's this whole idea of being willing to see that like underneath it all, we are flesh and bone, and all of this is an emotional marketplace and we're just dealing with each other's projections. But we've got to be willing to go in the cave and get clear with our own.
So yeah, I love what you were saying there, Kirti, as far as basically embracing and stepping into the shadow. And many of us, you know, especially in this kind of new age culture, which is beautiful in one way, but there's a lot of emphasis on alignment and stuff, which is beautiful. But we can't be enlightened. Right now we have this light in front of us to shine on our face, but we're casting a shadow. So anytime we're enlightened, we're casting a shadow. Shout out to Will, you know, brother Will. We had a conversation the other day, and he was saying that, you know, your shadow always has your back.
Always.
Your shadow has your back.
And it's never going anywhere. So you might as well meet it now.
Right.
Because it's always there too. And wherever there's light, there is shadow.
Gotcha.
And we wouldn't even see our shadows. You know what I'm saying? So in the darkness, we don't see actually the shadow.
Right. And you see, we were talking about earlier about going into the cave. Like, a cave is dark, y'all, unless you bring some light up in there. So just the nature of space and the nature is going into the darkness. Why go into the darkness? Because there's uncertainty there. In order to have a relationship, a relating breakthrough, you got to be willing to step into uncertainty. That's the shadow. Beautiful. See, the light is the structure and knowing what things are going to be. You can see your steps. That's beautiful, and that's needed in relating too. We don't always want to be walking in the dark. But there comes a moment when you come to crossroads, you got to be willing to step into some uncertainty, and you don't know what things are going to be. You're up leveling, and things are getting rearranged and changed around, and you're going to be operating different when you come out of this. Don't be scared of that. Step into it. That's why they call Tantra the warrior's path.
That's right.
Amen. And then lastly, y'all, when you come out of that shadow work, or maybe while you're in there, whatever, number 6 is wise counsel. Wise counsel. Of course, number 1, we've already spoke to it. You want to have wise counsel with yourself, to be in alignment, you know, to be able to get wisdom from yourself, you know, both from your ego, your shadow self, and your ego, your enlightened self, right? But then, and this is a time to be, especially at crossroads, when you're relating with yourself or with another, is you're at that place, that balancing point. You're doing that juggling thing, and somebody could pop the balloon, right? That Kirti was talking about earlier. You don't want to be talking to motherfuckers that have pens in their hands.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Who maybe want your relationship on the low to fail, or didn't think, like, or they have their certain projections. Their projection is a needle. They're going to knock you off that tightrope that you're on right now. You want wise counsel, people who are sturdy in things for you, and who have you if you do fall.
Right.
Count on those people.
Right. And also people that understand somewhat of, you know, the dynamics of men and women and have navigated relationships. That's always helpful. If you don't have a coach or a mentor, or you and your partner don't already have that, then there's got to be somebody that you find within community that you start to facilitate some of that relationship with, or somebody in your family that can relate to you, that you can speak openly and freely about, you know, the things that you've gotten clear on, that you've communicated to your partner, and that you've taken some space now, and, you know, you are ready to step in a new way, stepping forward in a new way, now that you have forgiven, you know, what you have accepted and allowed yourself to do in the past, moving forward. And it helps a lot to speak to somebody that knows how to listen.
Yeah, that's very important. Those of you who have been on my channel for a minute, you've heard this before, but if you're new or whatever, the word heart has hear and ear in it for a reason. You know, so you want to be able to talk to people who can hear you. And here, I think the reason why it's associated with the heart is because there's a feeling element to it. There should be some physical, they should be able to feel you in this moment.
And as you were talking about that, it's like, because I know that you've definitely got really good friends that do this for you, and I definitely have sisters that do this for me. But it's also like you want wise counsel for people who can truly feel you and feel your emotion and hold space for that level of emotion that you need to express.
Yes.
And of course, you're checking in with your people, like, you know, when you're getting your wise counsel, like, you know, this is how I'm feeling. Can you hold space for what I'm feeling? And also, wise counsel means they can hold space for your emotion, and they can also hold space for your growth.
Whew.
And be able to reflect where you are still playing small and not honoring your own truth.
And call you forth.
Right. And it's not about how you can be better for somebody else, but like, how are you not stepping into your own power of what you are on this planet for? And so that means you've got to have people in your wise counsel. Develop that now. If you're like, oh my God, who would I do that with? Who is my most inner circle that I could share that with? Start creating that now, because you want people around you to know your purpose on this planet so that they can hold you in that light. And a lot of times the breakdowns that we have in relationship are exact reflections of how we are holding ourselves back from our very own purpose, passion, and potency in life. Right? And so you want to have somebody that can hold you to that and help you understand how you've contributed and what would be the best and most easeful way moving forward. And not just for you, but for the planet.
I agree. Wow. And I love so many gems in there, y'all. Another thing that you said there that really stood out, because again, these are DNA, they weave into each other, right? So number 6 and number 5, the wise counsel going into, you know, allowing the shadow, right, is people who can hold space for you just to emote, for you just to, you're in your shadow self, you're in your ego. You know, that lower primal, wounded animal, wounded child aspect of yourself. And it's not about, in this moment, having clarity or being logical. It's about
getting fixed.
No, it's not about fixing. It's just about fucking feeling and expressing what you're feeling. They're part of the wise counsel too. They can hold you to that. And then I love the other thing. And then when you're out of that muck, because you got to get out the mud at some point. And the lotus has to come out the mud. You know, and open.
Spirals. And actually the lotus stem grows in a spiral from the mud. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that. And so these people hold the vision of your spiral.
That's right.
You know, and they call you forth for it.
And they know, and they can identify your patterns as you're sharing and your triggers and really help you, you know, do all of that. Definitely. So yeah, wise counsel is important. And if you feel like you don't have an inner circle or a wise counsel, a sacred circle, there's so many different names that people have, like just like their crew, your innermost crew. You've also got to check in with yourself in terms of the parts of you. Are all the parts of you in wise counsel?
Right.
Are they actually all being heard, felt, and seen? Because if you're not reflecting that in your outside world and you're not seeing that you have those members in your community or an inner circle, that means that there is still yet for some inner circle development to happen with all of the parts of you as well. Right. So encouragement around doing some of that, you know, work would be helpful.
Right. And then one more wise counsel is that you got Dil Say culture, from the heart culture, and you got faux show energy work, faux show health. Faux show again is what? The Buddha hands. Because enlightenment and working through the shadow and stepping into your purpose on this planet, doing that with playfulness and sensuality and everything, all of that is within your own hands. It's within your own grasp.
Well, I'm already really excited to share the more juicy ways to up-level your relationship on your Patreon now. Ashe.
And with that, y'all, that's the segue. It's like that's 6. This video, this is 6 to 9 ways to have a relationship breakthrough. We went through 6 here. And we're going to go through the juicier and, you know, other ones on my Patreon channel. If you're not a Patreon yet, I invite you to, you know, feel into your own body and think about doing it. This is what I do, y'all. And that allows me to have more space and time to do this, to share more things with you all. And there's so much more that wants to come through. And so I appreciate y'all taking this moment with y'all. And let's do 3 breaths together.
Okay.
So through time and space, whenever y'all see this, let's do it breathing in. And out. Breathe in. and out. One more, breathing in and out. Thankful for the ancestors, ascended masters who are with us. And Kirti, tell them who you be and what you got going on.
Well, everything I have going on is on my website. So check out my website. You can also connect with me there. dilsayculture.com.
All right. All right. Thank you. And again, I'm Shophar from Faux Show Energy Work and Faux Show Health. I do energy work with couples. Kirti and me do it with couples. Then she works with just the ladies. I work with just the men. And we work with, binary, non-binary, wherever you fall on your sexuality and everything, wherever you are in your intimacy journey. I also have a book, Sacred Orgasmic Living, Soul, and we also have a series of webinars that we do, S.E.X to S.E.X, Sensual Emotional Exchange. You can check the links down below in the description. We'll be updating when we have more. We do a co-ed one. And then I do one just for men. And then also keep checking, because through time and space, there will be one that will be running all the time that you can go to 24 hours, 24/7 and check out. So yeah, and again, we appreciate y'all. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your attention, and sending much love and everything to you. Keep that S.E.X in your life. Keep shining, keep evolving, and do so exponentially. One.
Peace.
All right. Let's get you out now.
No. Don't add that in and out.
I am leaving it.
I love making faces. I don't know why. It's just so fun.